Welcome to the rant, ladies and gentlemen. And it's a beautiful day here in Phoenix, Arizona. It is cloudy. It rained a ton last night. I just went for a run a little bit ago, and it was washed out. So very nice. It's nice that it's a little cool. It's not like super crazy hot. And the NFL starts tonight. The NFL season.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Now we got to wait the whole weekend for the Bears, though. I'm like, that's killing me. I'm happy that they're on Monday night, but I would prefer. I'm not sure if I'm like super pumped about Monday night the very first weekend. I think I'd rather have Thursday night and then Monday night later in the season.
I don't like when the Bears start because I'm always optimistic. Like I am Charlie Brown with the football when it comes to the Bears. Like and that's part of the reason we had the Bears Insider stuff there, and I used to like write football but what I realized, first of all, during this part of the year, or really even back because the NFL news cycle is like dominant, even when the NFL is not underway, which it feels like there's like a week between the end of the Super Bowl and then preseason camp starting, which I know is not true, right? But the NFL has done an excellent job of keeping itself in the news cycle, not always for the best reasons, but year round. And what I found, like I got burned out so fast, and I could not even enjoy weekends and watching football because, I still enjoy Cubs games to the extent that I can. However, I have, part of that unadulterated, whatever you want to call it, the fandom is sort of gone because I look at things a lot more objectively as a result of doing what we're doing, right? And kind of analyzing things more. So I've enabled myself to be more of a meatball with the Bears. It's a long way of getting around it and saying, so if they play on Thursday and I get all hyped up and they come out and score a touchdown right away, like a few years ago, like against Green Bay, and they looked really good, and then they end up just pissing that one away as they often do. And then I'm just in the dumps for like a week, or for even longer. And so then it just kind of sucks. So I actually kind of like it, especially now, I've got Red Zone and Sunday Ticket, so I can watch all the games, which is cheaper than having to go to B-Dubs when I was doing that. That's the other thing I realized is like, I'm just better off spending the $100, or it's more than 100, but a couple $100. Anyway, it's a long way around it. I'm glad it is a non-Bears game to start the season. Part of that is also because I can I don't have to feel like I focus my attention on that, right? The Cubs are also, they're off tonight, but when the Cubs are also playing, right, I don't have to flip between the two. This is great because it means there is no Cubs game tonight. So I don't have to divide my attention. And if the game gets sloppy or out of hand or if something else comes up, I don't feel like I have to sit there and watch it. I can just kind of tune things out and keep it as background noise. So I really enjoy that. Fantasy football's going. Speaking of which, I should probably make our picks in our Pick'em League because I have not done that yet.
You should do that.
Yeah, I better do that. While we're talking, I'm setting a reminder for myself. So when we finish up with this, I will do that so I don't lose out, which I will inevitably do anyway. But
okay, well, I think the guy that runs it, so you got that going for you.
Yeah, well, it hasn't really helped me win any money over the last however many years. Yeah, I know who to ask about why I didn't win. Well, you didn't win because your picks suck. That's why, basically.
Yeah, I'm staying on the Bears for just a second. I am very excited about the Bears season, and I think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot of unknowns, like way more than normal, just with Ben Johnson coming in and everything like that. So I think it'll be fun to see the season, and it's just like right up front and center, boy, on against the Vikings, I believe, who are supposed to be pretty good. JJ McCarthy quarterbacking there, kind of his first year, really. And so it'll be interesting. Like, hopefully they come out and they just play really disciplined. Like, that's really what I'm hoping for there, is like just some disciplined football. No stupid mental mistakes and just no sloppy play, whether they win or lose. Obviously want them to win. Just kind of like a good disciplined approach would be great. And it'd be nice to see Caleb come out doing well.
Yeah. I mean, I think the offense right? Like that's been the overriding issue. That's why you go out and you hire Ben Johnson, right? That's where he made a name for himself. And I think just having I mean, gosh, it can go back for a while, but the one thing that, and I wanted Eberflus fired well before he even was, but
Yeah, he was bad.
even with the mustache and the beard, he just, it didn't seem like, and we could go back. I mean, geez, it was worse with Nagy, but not taking accountability from a coaching standpoint, right? It was like, well, we're gonna go check the tape. That was Nagy's thing. Like, we gotta go check the tape, see what we did. I'm like, bro, everyone knows what you did and didn't do. Like, it was just an absolute shit show from start to finish. And
So it can't get any worse.
right, it really can't. But I think that's the thing. Is it sounds like we've got a guy who's preaching accountability, who's trying to get after this the right way, and you've got the weapons. Largely, I still think, and it's been interesting. I have not listened to the new Forward Progress podcast that Dan Bernstein has. It's Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola, also a former employee. But Bernstein's back with the podcast. It's a daily deal, which makes it a little bit tough for me. I mean, I think it does stand in well in place of his role as, a midday radio guy, right? You're normally listening to him for 2 or 3 hours a day at certain points. But I find it nice for bike rides and stuff. I have appreciated. I know not everybody appreciates the way Dan handled certain things. And I will say, for those who are a little skeptical, the very first episode, the very first thing he leads off with is kind of an apology and kind of an explanation of where he was at from a mental standpoint, which I found very disarming from him. So congrats to Dan on the new show, first of all. But I do think, what they got into was with the Packers making the big trade for Micah Parsons. The Packers feel like they're in a different spot. Like they feel as if they're maybe that one player away. That's why they were willing to give up those draft picks and really push like that. The Bears aren't quite there yet. We heard of Micah Parsons rumors with them last year. A lot of people are probably upset, and we'll probably delve into here in a bit more related to the Cubs. How maybe people are upset about things that they probably shouldn't be upset about. Does the Packers getting Parsons and having him there impact the Bears in the future? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think that's one of those things where it made as much sense for the Bears to have pulled off that same kind of deal or something similar as what it did for the Packers. So again, my hopes are just that we see a team that appears to be competent organizationally. That's how low the bar is.
That's not asking a lot. Right? That's not asking for a lot.
It's not. But I just don't want.
Sad that it's gotten to that though.
I just don't want them to sit on their own balls. Is all I'm saying. And how many times have we seen, like last year, the Bears probably could have been 10-7, 11-6. Like there were some stupid losses that they had. The Washington Hail Mary stands out, right? Like things like that. Just don't don't beat yourself is all I want to see. And we can say the same thing about the Cubs.
And that's what I was saying. It's just like, come out and play clean.
Yeah. Just make it entertaining. Don't make me
bad.
Yeah, don't make me mad that I spent the last 3 hours watching this, Cubs offense could do that from time to time, maybe as well.
Speaking of which, we should probably move on to the Cubs.
Because we are Cubs. It's the Cubs insider. What are you talking about the Bears?
It's a vertical. And so the Cubs. Let's talk about the Cubs. The Cubs really are treading water. They're not doing terrible. I think there are some things to look at. I mean, when we were talking back on our last podcast, it was, we looked forward, and I was saying the Cubs are going to go 8-1, the Brewers are going to go 2-8. Well, neither of them did that. Neither of them did anywhere near that, and they both basically were about 500. I mean, the Cubs were 4-5, and the Brewers are 5-4. I mean, no one's playing like they want to win this division, except I guess the Brewers are just kind of cruising in right now. There's a lot of games left to be played, though, and so it'll be interesting to see down the stretch what ends up happening. But I will say that's wins and losses, and a lot of different things have happened. We can kind of get into that, but really, when you look at just from an offensive perspective, where we were kind of really concerned, I mean, since the 25th, we've had some good developments. I mean, Kyle Tucker's been batting way better. He's almost at 400 over that time. And he's got, a few home runs. Well, he had one home run, but he had a couple before that. Ian Happ's tearing the cover off the ball. Dansby Swanson's batting pretty well. He's got a couple home runs, showing a little bit of power. Seiya Suzuki, is kind of treading water. Nico kind of doing the same thing. I mean, and so it's just kind of like you feel like a couple guys are kind of getting back on track, but really it just feels like, and we can talk about the pitching as well. But what's your take in terms of like what we've seen over the last week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a lot better about, like, obviously there's going to be games like last night, right, where they just score the one run, and I know a lot of people are frustrated by the lineup and everything, but again, you're looking at Tucker, who's been hitting well, but he had the little calf thing, having the day off, like, and Craig Counsell even said this, like, he explained it on Tuesday, the night he's like, hey, Kyle's getting the day off tomorrow, like, we don't think it's that serious, but we're giving them an extra. Talk about PCA, of course. The thing is like everybody's like, PCA needs time off. He's been terrible. And then when he gets time off, everybody's like, whoa, hold on. Why is he not in there? Ian Happ's hitting really well, and everybody's like, well, it's about time. These will be his 20 games of the season. He sucks for 142, and then he has 20 good ones. So we just can't have nice things is kind of what I'm saying at the end of the day. But no, I mean, I feel like we're seeing, hey, we saw Nico Horner bat leadoff again against a right-handed pitcher, which means maybe are we finally getting some more continuity up there instead of switching your leadoff hitter, and that's less to me about that. And of course, plenty of blowback on this one way or the other, but I just think part of the Michael Busch thing, he hasn't been hitting well for a little while now, but his best performance comes deeper in the order. When he's batting like fifth, sixth, he's way better there as a run-producing hitter than as a leadoff guy. And then a lot of people were, well, he's X to leadoff games, and you only bat leadoff once. I'm like, that's true, right? But you do have to bat multiple times in a game. And the simple fact of the matter is that when he is in the number one spot in the order, his production is not nearly as good as it is when he's batting 5, 6. Is that a mentality thing for him? Is that because of who's in front of him and behind him at that point? I don't know. But that's what the statistics say, right? So that's what I would rather look at. I would rather have that continuity, not to mention that, Busch, for all the things he does well, is not a speed guy. So, if it's not a home run, and he's not like the crazy on base dude either, and certainly hasn't been lately, he does things well. But again, I want to see a little bit more continuity. We still need to see PCA kind of come around. He had the bunt hit the other day, the only one in MLB this year, 2-strike bunt hit, pretty wild. But no, guys I think are starting to come around a little bit more. We're seeing some life out of Seiya Suzuki. And so overall, right, one game notwithstanding, and even from this, I guess it's the other thing, right? You took 2 out of 3 from the Braves. Granted, they're down this season, but that's all you can really hope for. I think a lot of people have gotten spoiled with this whole, like, you got to sweep everything. And I understand that, like, it's not fun to lose a game to Colorado, but you take 2 out of 3, and if you do that every series, doesn't matter who you're playing, you're going to end up with a really, really good record, right? And so take your 2 out of 3, be happy with that, go on and keep doing more of that down the stretch to maintain the position, yeah. I'm cool with it. I like where they're at right now.
Yeah. Well, I get what you're saying there. And I think the disappointment was taking 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. Felt that should have been a sweep, and getting swept by the Giants. I mean, that was really terrible, because they're still 9 games back of the Cubs in the wild card race. So you don't really feel like a threat there, but you can't get swept in San Francisco. You just can't. Not at this point in the season. That was just poor.
Yeah, that was bad.
And so that's what I'm saying is it's like they're treading water. Yeah, they're kind of doing the things that they need to do to kind of stay where they are. But they're certainly they could. I mean, they had an opportunity this week, right? I mean, if they would have won 2 out of 3 against the Giants, they would have swept the Rockies, and then 2 out of 3 from the Braves. We're talking about a way different story. I mean, instead of being, what are they, 6 games back right now? Yeah, they're 6 back in the standings. So when we talked, on the 25th of August, they were what, 6.5?
Yeah,
And so
they
they
cut a few. I think
gained
we were talking about they
a
had to
half
get
a
it under
game.
5, right? Get it to 4.5. I think because there was the
Yeah.
game the Brewers had Tuesday off or whatever, so there's that half game off there,
Yeah.
and that's
And
what I
the Brewers
thought we,
still play today. And so it could
yeah.
be 5.5 if the Brewers lose and they play in the Phillies. So it's, and so, they're either going to be 6.5 games back, which is right where they were, or 5.5 games back, which is really only one game better. But hey, it's something as you head into September. And one team, either Milwaukee or Chicago, needs to start playing like they want to win this thing, right? I mean, kudos to Milwaukee. They played really well there for, a couple times. They had a couple long winning streaks, but it's like now it just kind of seems like everyone's falling flat. And I mean, no one really in the division is playing well at all.
No, and that's the other thing is like Cincinnati looked for a set. They took a couple from the Cubs. Looked like they were going to be making a run, and then all of a sudden, nope, that's gone. They didn't, and yeah, nobody's really. Although that's the good news there for the Cubs again is that they continue right. They're 4 games up on the Padres as of us recording this for the top wild card spot. They're 9 games up on the Giants for the bottom wild card spot. So, as much as we sit there and say, man, it's 6 games, 5.5, 6.5, wherever we are, right? That's a really difficult hill to climb to try to catch the Brewers. You got to have the Brewers effectively fall on their face, right? Because even if the Cubs win out the rest of the way, which they will not, you still got to have the Brewers lose quite a few in there, right?
Quite a few.
And so, yeah. And so but the opposite is true, right? On the other way, like I'm not saying the Cubs can't lose their wild card, not just position, but a wild card spot, but that would take just an astronomical collapse. And I mean, even the Padres gaining 4 games on the Cubs right now would be very tough for them. So I think that's where, again, I'm not saying they just put it in cruise control and sit back, but that does drive some of this because there's things we've seen before where you have a team that's got to just make this furious run at the end to come back. Mm-hmm. And as a result, you got to pull all the strings, you got to burn guys out, and then you've got nothing left if you do make the postseason. Because it's possible you burn them all up and get nothing. And I think that's kind of where they're at. Again, not saying they need to punt games or anything like that, but discretion is definitely the better part of valor. The goal is, what if you pull out all these stops and you still fall 2 games shy of the Brewers? Now you're in the same spot you would have been, but with starters who aren't rested up, with a bullpen that's hanging on by a thread, things like that. So I think there's right now the Cubs are in that mode of like, yeah, we're still trying to win, but we also have our eye on October and making sure that we're going into the playoffs. The playoffs, I don't know where that came from. I think I was trying to
playoffs.
But getting there with the best possible, and that includes pulling Cade Horton early, setting an innings or a pitch limit on him, for starts. Which I don't know if you wanted to get into this later. I'll avoid it because otherwise I'll go off. But I know we'll probably discuss that. But I don't want to run into that.
That's part of the title of the show.
Yeah, I didn't look at that. Come on, I don't prep for this thing.
Yeah, no, but to your point, it's like, I mean, now if the Brewers lose tonight and it's a 5.5 game lead, that's significantly better than 6.5. While it doesn't seem like it is. And, you have hope, but to your point, is it worth pushing? Because where the Cubs are with guys that, and the workloads, and I guess we can transition into that conversation. And you look at a lot of the signings that they've been doing recently, which are kind of like these wacky one-off, like weird kind of supplemental signings that feel like they're really meant to give guys days off more than they are to, give the Cubs wins because they're not impact signings. And so, yeah, it feels like the idea or the thought about building momentum in September is really kind of probably off the table unless they just start winning with the way that they have to manage their workloads, right? I mean, if they win, they're going to, it's not like they're not going to be trying to win, but they're certainly not going to be pushing their starters. They're certainly not going to be riding their bullpen. They're certainly not going to be, playing all their stars, like all the different, a lot of innings. They're going to be giving them time off. And if they can win doing that, then I think that's fine. But right now, I mean, short of something massively disastrous happening, the Cubs are in the playoffs.
I mean, it's 99.8% odds or whatever, right? There's a chance because numerically there just is, right? They're only up 9. It's possible they could lose 9 games to the Giants or 10 games to the Reds at some point here in the next 3 weeks.
They do play the Reds 4 games.
So there you go. Could all happen.
There could be a catastrophic collapse, but barring a catastrophic collapse, you have to manage to the postseason. And so that's exactly what they're going to be doing. That's what Craig Counsell is going to be doing. And I think that's what a lot of these signings are doing. And if we want to get into the workload conversation, I think that's a good segue to it, which is that's really the primary goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's, look, I get that we want to see players do cool things. I get that Cade Horton has been very good. The first thing I want to throw out there, though, is like, now, maybe you know this, but I don't. I have never been able to accurately judge whether a pitcher is going to give up runs in the subsequent inning, right? Or the next inning after that, or whatever. Like, who's to say? So, and this is something, again, and it's, I think we talked about on the show before, it's a difference of perception, right? My biased perception versus perspective, understanding the bigger picture. And this is something that we've discussed on here, I've written about for a while. We have known from the beginning of the season, we didn't know Horton was going to be up yet, but we knew with Matt Boyd in particular that for a Cubs team only really counting on him for 120 innings, that there was going to be a certain point where they were going to have to really, and it appears as though he has maybe hit that proverbial wall to an extent. Like, he wasn't bad the last time, but after, and again, he was never going to be as good as what he was for that period there. He went through a couple months where he was just lights out. He's like what Horton is now. But you knew, like, all right, this dude hasn't even pitched more than 80 innings or whatever in 5 seasons. There's a point at which you're going to have to dial him back. Now, can't really do that because they had all these other injuries coming up. Same thing with Horton, though. And this is another thing we've hit. So not only with Horton, not only is he well past, he's at 98.2 now, I think, right? Is he over 100 now with the Cubs? I should just pull this up. And
you're talking about innings?
Yeah. I have it right here. 103.2. He was at 98.2 going into the game. That's why I had that number in my head. 103.2. Yeah. Even at 98.2, that's 10 more innings than he threw at all in 2023 total as a minor leaguer. He only threw 34.1 last year. And so we're talking about he's thrown almost 3 times as many innings just for the Chicago Cubs, let alone the 29 he threw for the I-Cubs. That's the one thing. The other thing is this. At no point in the minors did he throw 7 innings in a game. He's done that once with the Cubs now, right? Maybe he had one. I think it's just once. And then he had like 1 game in college where he went 7.1 innings. So he's only pitched more than 6 innings, twice as a professional. Both were with the Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, in July. And if you look at the number of pitches, he's only gone over 90 4 times. Those have all been with the Chicago Cubs, maxed out at 94. He pitched, I think he had 100 pitches one time for Oklahoma. He threw 107 pitches over 7.1 innings in the College World Series championship against Ole Miss, which they lost. So everybody who's wondering, wow, how can they? Because the dude's literally never been this far. He's never pitched this much in any year. Because in high school, you don't pitch as much, even if they're running them out there all the time. They only play 7-inning games. So barring a game that was like 0-0 or 1-1, because this guy was so unreal. So I think that's part of it. And you're like, it's cool that we want to see a no-hitter. You use the revisionist history like, oh, well, Ben Brown and Drew Pomerantz, whatever. What if Horton goes out there and walks the bases loaded and then gives up a tank? As unlikely as that is, that very well could have happened because, and I'm before I start rambling, the only time before I start, hell, I've been rambling.
I was like, what?
Before the only time since the start of August, right? So it was last 5 starts that he went over 75 pitches. Was he went 82 against the Blue Jays. He went into that last inning at like 65, 62, something like that. And then got 2 outs on the first 10 pitches, and then had a 10-pitch at-bat to Bo Bichette that pushed him to 82. So they only had him start that inning because he was so far below 75 and had been pitching really efficiently, and then kind of had that stumble with that long at-bat. If he gets out of that in 3 pitches, he's at, guess what, 75, and they're still pulling him. So this isn't a new thing. It's not like they just decided at pitch 75 last night, you're done. It was, this is your limit. We have been at this limit for the last month or so. This is what we have decided we're going to do. We're going to keep testing you with stuff because we want to make sure that when it gets to October, like all these people that want to burn him out now, and I know they're not saying burn him out, but it's like, I want to see a no-no. I want to see them win now. Okay, Veruca Salt, that's wonderful, but what are the consequences of that? I want to see him start a postseason game for them and be at his best then. I could not care less if they lose a game because they pulled him out a little bit early and the Cubs couldn't score more than 1 damn run. What if he gives up 2? They still lose, right? It doesn't matter what the run differential is. Who cares?
Yeah. Well, and so really what the Cubs need to do is manage workloads. I mean, if you look at the top 3 pitchers, like, I mean, can they go with a 4-pitcher rotation in the playoff? Do they have enough quality pitchers to go with a 4-pitcher rotation?
Well, they only need, I mean, they should just go with 3. I mean, that's all they'll need. Exactly. That's all they can do because, at best or at most, they're needing 3 for their first round, right? So then, you push past that. But between the days off and everything, they should be able to go on fairly regular rest. I think a lot of that depends.
There's just no way they try for. I guess is my point, right? Like
they can't really because who's your 4th that you trust to go out there and get like, okay, it's Jameson, Javier Assad, huh?
So is it Horton, Imanaga, and Ray or Boyd?
Boyd for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be
Horton.
Like those are the only 3 you can look at. Yeah, I trust you to win in the playoffs. But Boyd, again, Boyd to me has gotten more into that kind of shaky category lately. Now, he might just throw gems these next 2 times out, but I really think he's somebody who you got to consider like, okay, is it, Aaron Savali, I know, went into the pen through his 3 innings. I know they're looking at Michael Soroka coming out. Do you throw a piggyback type bullpen game every 6th game just to spread these guys out a little bit more? I don't think you'd necessarily skip a full start for somebody, but I do, as much as I generally hate bullpen games, and that's why you acquired these guys, right? Is to go out there and eat up some innings and save some arms.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean that feels like that's what the approach has got to be and will be, in fact, because you got to save the arms. I think if the Cubs end up going 500 the rest of the way, they're fine. And I'm guessing like internally that would probably be, you're not telling that to the team, but I'm assuming that between Jed Hoyer and Craig Counsell, that would probably be pretty amenable. Is like, let's just go 500 the whole way. If we do that, we're going to get in the playoffs. We're probably not going to lose our position. You want to go a few games over 500 if you can. I think that's pretty realistic. Just looking at the schedule, as we mentioned the last time we were talking, I mean, the Cubs are going to go up against the Nationals, the Braves, the Rays, the Pirates, the Reds. Those are their next several series. And so then they don't play a team over 500 until they get to the Mets. And the Mets are the only team that they play with a record over 500 the rest of the way. And then they finish out, against the Cardinals. And so it feels very realistic to think, all right, we could go, the Cubs could go 500 for sure. But I highly doubt the conversation in that locker room and in the front offices is about catching the Brewers as much as it is about trying to position everybody and get everyone on the same page and ready for the postseason. And when I say that, I mean like getting like the offense back on track too. Like give them their days off now, and that's what we're seeing, right? Is we get their days off, give them their days off, get them rested up, and then hopefully, I'm guessing about in a week, maybe 10 days, you really start to kind of hope these guys start pressing a little bit more and getting better results, because you'd love to see them just getting better results in the last couple of weeks of September as they go into October.
Yeah, I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, right? It's whether we want to, ideally, what they're doing, right, is you a little low on gas or whatever, and so you're coming down a hill and you take your foot off the gas and let gravity do the work, so that you're maintaining the same speed roughly without any real effort. And that's, I think, and I get it, like that rubs people the wrong way, because there's a lot of people like, we need to win every game, we got to catch the Brewers, and it's like, I mean, okay, cool, like the time for that is past, right? That in the second half of July, if they had come out a little bit hotter, and for a big chunk of August, and again, that is not to say they shouldn't try to win. I want to be very clear about that in case people are jumping in late or came back on or whatever. But it's just a matter of doing what's best. We've seen time and time again, especially with this expanded playoff format, that you do not need to win the division. You do not need to have the best record in order to win. You've got to be playing the best baseball. And for the Cubs and for how they are positioned currently, we're looking at guys being a little nicked up. Whether that's just mental fatigue or some physical issues and all that stuff. If you can clean that up now, then you give that opportunity with about a month, effectively a little bit less, right, to get going, versus the other way around. And I think where a lot of people would rather see them just put that pedal to the metal and really try to push it and catch them. If you do, and again, as I said before, if you catch them, great. But even then, what happens if that's the deal and then they just fall flat on their face, or worse yet, they still fall short in the division and they're running up against just all kinds of fatigue and all kinds of other stuff that come with that, because it's more difficult to try to catch somebody to have to sprint at the end than to maintain that pace. And there comes a point, right? If you're running a race and you see that person far enough ahead of you, you're just like, you know what? Second place.
You're just trying to keep it together. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You just don't want to fall apart.
Or I guess really though, what this would be more like is you're in the second leg of a triathlon, right? Trailing, and it's like, okay, do I try to catch him now, or do I conserve this for, I don't know, what's last in a triathlon? What order do they go in? The run. Okay.
It goes
the swim in the middle, is a
bike, run.
Swim, bike, run. Okay. So they're on the bike, right? Are the Cubs trying to blast past the Brewers now and burn up their legs for the run? Or are they saying, you know what, we're going to conserve this, so we've got a kick left at the end? And I think it's definitely that latter strategy. And I would argue all day long and, every day of the week and twice on Sunday, that is by far the better strategy. I'd rather keep that to the very end and do what I can. And again, we could put blame on that. We could say that they wouldn't have to do that if Jed Hoyer had done X, Y. That's great, but there's really no point in relitigating the offseason or the trade deadline right now. It is what it is, and this is the strategy they've chosen. And at least in certain points, I definitely agree with it. I think they should have been giving some of these guys breaks earlier than what they did in some of these cases. But again, here we are.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking, if you look at the schedule, kind of who they're up against, where they are right now, they're 80 and 60, right? And so they've got 22 games left. Realistically, they could go 15 and 7. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that happen. And if they do that, they're going to win 95 games. And
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's a
if I told you at the
pretty good
beginning of the
outcome.
season, if I told you at the beginning of the season the Cubs are going to win 95 games and have the second best record in the National League, possibly a top 3 to 5 in all of baseball, right? All things aside, I don't give you placement or anything. And if I said that the Cubs are going to win 95 games, how would you feel about that at the beginning of the season if I told
Yeah,
you?
I mean, of course, everybody's happy with that. Everyone's happy with that.
Right? So it's
And
context,
so,
you know.
yeah, and so, but that would now just so that would mean they would finish. They would have their September would be 17 and 8, which would be their best month. Their best month outside of that was May. It was 18 and 9, and now 17 and 8 would be a very good month. But again, just being realistic, I mean, they play the Nationals 3, they play the Braves 3, they play Tampa 3, they play the Pirates 3, and then they play 4 against the Reds. There could be a lot of wins in there, and let's keep in mind that what happens with these teams that typically aren't going to make the playoffs is they really start to peter out, right? Like the difference in the distance between the good teams that are headed towards the playoffs and the teams that are kind of like in last place or just like sinking becomes much greater in September. Their rosters are expanded. They typically start to play a lot more young players, to give them a chance. There's no point. They're not going for wins. And so it's not to say they're giving up necessarily, but the opportunity is going to be there for the Cubs to win, to have a very good month. And I mean that with them playing conservatively, sitting, resting guys, monitoring and managing workloads. I think that the opportunity is still there for them to have a very good month. And so that's good. But in any case, they should end over 90 wins, right? For sure. Right. I mean,
Yeah,
that
I
would
mean,
mean they went 10 and
you only
12
need
last
11
year, right?
more, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's not much to ask for. I think that's kind of your 500 there. That's what you just
Yeah.
mentioned, and I think, but I think that's the thing is if they have that potential to come in and catch a little momentum, and at the very least be just healthy and rested, I think is really what you look at, and we right. It's the same thing. Again, they just have the ability, depending on where they're at from that position, to do that. We see that with teams all the time. It doesn't matter the sport. Once you've kind of locked up that playoff position or feel, and like I said, they're not just sitting guys every time. They're not going to bullpen games 3 days out of 5 or anything like that. It's just more a
Yeah.
matter of their discretion is a better part of valor. And the quote I used, I was listening to the rewatchables. They were talking about American Gangster, and they brought up this quote. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, and now it's not on Netflix anymore, so I wasn't able to watch it last night. But it's quitting while you're ahead is not the same thing as quitting, right? They are not giving up on the season. They're not punting on anything. They're just saying, hey, you know what? We are in a good position right now. Let's be smart about how we handle this. So they're not necessarily walking away from the table, blackjack or whatever. They're just not upping their bets, right? They're just maintaining the minimum bet right now and just and knowing that they are a good enough team if they play solid baseball, right? To make sure, and they're just not pulling out all the stops every time, and that's fine. That's the way that needs to work. You're not going to burn up your bullpen to win a game in which you've only scored 1 run. I think the other thing kind of missing from the context of yesterday, it's not as if the Cubs were up 5-0 or something and then pissed away a big lead. Like they were up 1-0. That's I don't care who's on the mound for you. That is a precarious lead, regardless, right? And Horton was never going to go the whole game. So let's think about it that way. That's just one of those where the offense needed to do more than get a blue Willie Castro hit to drive in a run or whatever, right? Like it just wasn't as sharp, and that's fine. Like you'll have games that are not that good. You flush it, you move on. But I do feel significantly better about this team, the way they've been playing, what all's going on, than where they have been, where they were even 2 weeks ago.
I think, and just flipping it around, like, we talk about the players that, or at least the starting pitchers that we think the Cubs would need to rely on going into the playoffs. I think we're identifying the pitchers that I don't ever want to see coming out of the bullpen. One of them has been Brown.
Oof. He started out pretty good with the 3 strikeouts, and some of his stuff looked okay, but boy, how quickly is he gone from like, oh, this is a dude, to just, you can't trust him even in a short outing.
Yeah.
It's gotten rough for him. Just oof. Not fun.
Yeah. It's not fun. It's not fun to watch that, but yeah. So I think there's still some uncertainty. I think we need to kind of watch this next month to see how things are going to play out as the Cubs kind of coast into the postseason here, and just kind of see like how they're lining up the chess pieces, I think, for the next round, and what that'll actually look like. So we'll get more into that and kind of the playoffs and stuff like that when we reconvene, which will be, when will we reconvene? Let's just take a look. Let's give the people what they want, Evan. And
what they want is probably for us not to reconvene.
When I say that, I don't know what I mean by that. But sometime I think over the next week, in a week, might be a good time, next Thursday, because the Cubs they play the Pirates on Wednesday in the morning, and then they play the Reds at night. So maybe we can kind of run it back around the same time. We'll see. Until then, thank you for joining us.
I was going to say, next week they're off Thursday. 2 weeks they have the Pirates.
Are they off Thursday?
They're off.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Yeah.
I was reading the schedule. Yeah. Oh, you're right. They are off. Next Thursday it is.
Oh, hey, just while we're on here, I just wanted to share with everybody that I got a group text on an Easy Pass notice that I have an unpaid toll reminder. It appears to be very legitimate. So
click into that and put your credit card information.
Absolutely. Through the
Social Security number.
I can pay as soon as possible through the question mark allowing method. So not following, but question mark allowing, which is a dead giveaway for this being legit. So I just want to share with all of you that I got it. So in case you get that same thing, definitely click on the link. Definitely give them your payment information. Actually,
we'll get an update.
Yeah.
We'll get an update from Evan in the next show on how that went. Follow up.
I just texted back to them with something that was not very nice.
Oh. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we must end the show. But have a good week. Have a good weekend, more importantly. And enjoy the first NFL football game, the first NFL football weekend. So yay, football started.
Yeah, party on.
That's all I got.
See you.
See you guys.